On Sports Sunday this afternoon, we reveal Tammy Van Wisse's Bass Strait swim. Was it conducted fairly? Did Tammy and Dawn Fraser push the boundaries too far? Ours was the only camera on the boat.
I'm just an ordinary person and I had a go at doing something that was extraordinary, and I think it sort of gives people hope when they see that happening.
Before Albert Park was buzzed by charging Formula Ones, its surface was ruffled only by yachts, some big, some small.
The fellows that are here would be quite capable of taking their place in any big boat that you like to bring along.
It became a sporting slump of front-page proportions. Ian Baker-Finch was fighting to hit the fairways. Now he appears to be out of the rough.
I see myself winning again in 1996. And that will happen. There's nothing surer than I will come back, and I think I'll be stronger for it.
The monumental battle between the ARL and Super League was fought without mercy. Now the question is, where to from here?
They've used the players in this last few weeks and months to turn everything against us.
It's been a major sporting weekend right around the world. Ian Maurice, he's been monitoring the action.
OK, Ken, let's bring you up to date. Cricket first, and India and Sri Lanka are the first teams through to the World Cup semi-finals. The Indians ended Pakistan's title defence. Opener Navjot Sidhu setting up a 39-run win. In Faisalabad, Sri Lanka did it easily against a hapless England. The highlight, a blistering innings from Sanath Jayasuriya. He scored 82 from 44 balls. In athletics, star Australian sprinter Damien Marsh says he's still on track for the Atlanta Olympics despite suffering an Achilles injury at the national titles in Sydney. Marsh pulled up on the bend of the 200 metres final, leaving the door wide open for West Australia's Dean Capobianco. Kathy Freeman won the women's final, easily beating Jodie Lambert and Lauren Hughes.
They are called Rugby League's lost weekends. For the first time in the history of the game, the competition failed to kick off on time, delayed by the dispute between the Australian Rugby League and News Limited. In the next couple of days, a judge will enforce the Australian Rugby League's federal court win by making detailed orders on the future of Super League. But just when it looks safe to go back to the playing field, the fight could get even dirtier. Tim Sheridan reports.
Ken Cowley said very important words to us, to all that meeting. I'll never do anything to harm the game. There'll not be a rebel league. And now I believe that, you know, Lachlan Murdoch and News Limited are out to destroy it.
No, RFK's coming this way.
They keep on talking about they're going to, like, just as recently as a couple of days ago, they're talking about throwing the Broncos out if they don't toe the line. Well, isn't that what this is all about? Let them throw us out. Let's get on with life. Let the ARL think they can run a better competition than the Super League. Let them run one, and let the public view it and say which one they think it's about.
An average bush lawyer could see that two things about the Super League case are not in dispute. The first is that it's a long way from full time, if that means peace. The second is that Rugby League, caught in the crossfire of last year's winter war, will take more punishment before some sort of arrangement is brokered or forced.
Is it over? No, I don't think it's over. I think it's a long way. I think the sides are just so far apart. It's irreconcilable.
That bad?
I believe so. Liken it to a divorce case where you've come before the court to work out who gets what, and the judge has said you've got to go and live back together, and I think it's very difficult.
Mr. O'Brien, you happy with that judgment?
The ARL won hands down, clean sweep.
Ironically, Rugby League's headquarters is across Sydney's Phillip Street from the Federal Court. 3 Fridays ago, 51 days of hearing ended in favour of the Australian Rugby League, known routinely as the ARL. In a 217-page document, Justice Birchett ruled on News Limited's attempt to take control of the game by signing 8 clubs and many of their players. He said it was illegal because some of the clubs had previously signed loyalty agreements with the ARL.
5:30, everybody upstairs at 5:30.
This brought to a halt News Limited's intention of starting its own competition last weekend. A checkmate, certainly, but not enough to bridge the philosophical gap.
When Super League came along, they didn't just come into our organisation and say, we want to pay Glenn Lazarus big money, we want to pay Alan Langer big money. They came in and they looked at our top 25 players. And every one of our top 25 players received substantial increases in wages, better playing conditions. Everyone was looked after. Everyone was given that possibility and the chance to become a professional footballer. The ARL were never about that. And they never were about it, and they never will be about it.
Just another day of training.
Since Super League had put its players onto a News Limited payroll, the federal court ruling on club loyalty didn't affect their positions. And they are hardly going to rush back, given a clever clause in Super League contracts. It says that players will only receive their money if they play for Super League or not at all. To keep their big paychecks, they have to stay away from the ARL.
Been very strong towards us all this campaign, and we'll be playing for Super League next year, or this year.
So just a temporary setback, is it?
Certainly is. Thanks very much.
If we have to put a team in the ARL, we will, and we'll use our best endeavours to put our best team on possible, but I don't think it'll be a very strong team.
So it'll be without Super League stars, if they refuse to play?
Certainly.
It's this loophole the ARL was trying to close this week, as the game of walking backwards with cameras resumed on Phillip Street. Justice Burchett is making orders, the specific and detailed tools that will put his 217-page ruling to work.
Kick and chase again by Mullins!
Of the 34 orders the ARL wants, 2 will seal the fate of the Super League players. One requires players to return to the ARL and for Super League to pay them. The second says that since it's already been ruled that the ARL effectively owns Super League's property, that property includes player contracts.
Isn't this mucking about a little bit, though, with players' choice for who they work?
The players will have the choice of which ARL club they play for. We are not asking for an order that Ricky Stewart play for Canberra. We're asking for an order that Ricky Stewart play for the ARL club of his choice.
The judge hasn't ruled anything on the players, and as far as I'm concerned, no one can tell me where I have to play football or where I have to work. Like, we are in Australia. It is a democracy, and we can make decisions of our own. Like, no one can tell us who our employer is going to be and where we have to work.
But the prospect of weekly thrashings, empty stands and idle stars is almost too grim to contemplate, even for those in the ARL fold.
Is that they've been promised a certain amount of money, and to come back here, they're not going to get it. I mean, anyone is going to be disappointed with getting a pay cut. But unfortunately, I suppose the ARL won the court case, which puts them in the box position, and these guys will have to decide whether they are going to come back and play for less, or they're going to sit out the year and get their money from Super League. I mean, it's an agonising choice to make, but unfortunately, they're in that position.
Legal firepower on this week's front bench was beefed up to a total of 15 barristers, 6 of those wigs belonging to the priciest Queen's counsels in the country. Up in the gallery, a number of Super League players watched, even if they couldn't hear or understand. Chris Johns came from Brisbane to watch the 3 days, unswayed and still Super League's most persuasive player voice.
Chris, the vision thing and the ideals, are you sure you haven't been a bit brainwashed over the length of this?
Well, I can only look at what's been done in the past, and looking at what News Corp are about and what they've done, every promise they've made for us, they've kept, and they've been great that way. And just on the vision and the promises that they've made, like News Corporation this year have already spent in the off-season, while this huge court case is going on, they've spent millions and millions of dollars upgrading facilities in Townsville, Canberra, Cronulla, Adelaide. They've already started to look after the fans, and I still ask the question, what have the ARL been doing while this war's been going on?
What have they spent on ANZ? Who spent that money? The council in Brisbane and on the ANZ Bank. Has Chris contributed to the development of Suncorp? Does Chris realise that the grandstand at Cronulla was built in conjunction with the League in loans and the state government, the grandstand at St George, Parramatta Stadium, the $1 million we gave to Canberra, in conjunction with the government to develop Bruce? Ericsson Stadium? Has Chris done all that? Has News Limited done all that? Or have they done a small amount, again on the basis that they'd get a greater profit?
On both sides of the game's great divide, certain clubs are financial basket cases, and on both sides, there's talent of real marquee value. Some clubs made their choice from a position of strength. Others clung to whoever might throw a lifeline. Sooner or later, the ARL will come up against a choice between a loyal lame duck and an errant success story.
The priority in all of this then will be what the 12 clubs think, because they've been the guys that have fought for the game and they're the guys that have won. And sooner or later a decision will be made.
On the number of clubs?
On the number of clubs.
For those representing the Super League, this week holds 3 legal choices. Firstly, they can ask Justice Burchett for a stay of orders, allowing them to proceed with the competition. If he refuses, they can ask the same of 3 judges in a separate court. And from a no there, the only way is a full appeal, a lengthy process during which the orders are in force.
I myself, like my principles and the morals and the stand I've taken, I would find it very difficult to play in an ARL competition, but I'd have nothing against the people from Super League going back and playing in an ARL competition if News Corporation and Super League walked away from it, but they're not going to. They want to make this thing work. They share what we believe in and we share what they believe in. We're with them 100% and they're pushing forward.
The other side is just as determined, backed by the weight of the law. But John Quayle doesn't agree that the generals who waged the war shouldn't run the peace.
Well, a lot of people want me to go. It wasn't my plan. They do, don't they? And it's funny, when I ask them why, they look you in the eyes and they can't tell you. And it's only because the resentment that's been put in that I'm the messenger. When it comes to the crunch, I'll ask the guys that I've supported. And if they say I've got to go, it'll be a different matter.
Assuming that Super League must go away for 4 years, will it be back?
Of course it'll be back. I mean, this is one round that's been lost, but as I said, I think it's right. My good friend John Rebo thinks it's right, and a lot of other people think it's right. 300 players think it's right. At a petition in Canberra, 20,000 people signed it. They think it's right. And we'll continue to push until it happens.
However long that takes.
However long it takes.